Our next and last speaker up to talk to us a little bit about what you can take home with you for assistance is Melissa Boudrye?
Boudrye, yeah.
Boudrye, Resilience Branch Chief with CalOES. So thanks so much for being here.
I guess, hey, that's me. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Melissa Boudrye. As mentioned, I'm the Resilience Branch Chief at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. I'm really grateful to be here. I feel like I've learned a lot from you all as far as what you guys are addressing as some of your areas of concern. CalOES established the Resilience Branch in 2024 to really address some of the gaps and unmet needs in providing access to technical assistance resources for local mitigation planning, climate adaptation planning, and access to the various hazard mitigation assistance programs for those various grant programs. I'm going to focus today just specifically on the Climate Adaptation Planning Guide 3.0 and the State Hazard Mitigation Plan for today. Just because, as many folks probably know, the future of our funding resources is pretty uncertain at this point in time, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about grant programs that may or may not exist next year, unfortunately. So focusing first on our Climate Adaptation Planning Guide, the APG serves as California's core guidance for developing local and regional climate adaptation plans. It's being updated to reflect lessons learned from recent disasters, evolving science, and community-driven approaches to resilience. Some of our key goals for the APG 3.0 that are being updated: we're trying to align with the new state climate strategies, such as the 5th Climate Change Assessment, the 2024 Climate Adaptation Strategy. We're looking at reinforcing the case for local adaptation and mitigation, not just at the policy level, but also looking at local case studies, as well as community responsibility to protect people, property, and cultural heritage. We're looking at expanding engagement tools to strengthen cross-sector and cross-jurisdictional collaboration, including with tribal and regional partners. We are integrating more robust equity and inclusion practices to ensure underserved populations are centered in the planning process. We're making the guidance a lot shorter and a lot more practical and easy to use, with a lot more templates and real-world examples. So taking a very extensive, large document that sits on a shelf and probably won't be used to hopefully being a resource and a guide that can be more helpful for actually implementing your climate action plans. We're aiming for publication around September of 2026, but between now and then, we're going to be seeking a lot of input from local communities, a lot of opportunities to provide your stories, highlight your insights, whether you face challenges or have best practices and lessons learned in adaptation planning. We really want to hear from you guys and get some of that information to incorporate into the guide itself. So opportunities for public input in APG 3.0. We are going to be seeking input from many members from the community from across regional partners, tribal partners, other state agency partners, local community partners, and we really are looking for anecdotal experiences, climate planning case studies, successful implementation of climate adaptation projects, and any challenges you guys are facing to climate adaptation planning and implementation. And I've got a couple of folks back there, Annika and Matt, who have some resources for getting some additional information and feedback from you guys today. So we'll be handing out a survey sheet from our team, which I know everyone loves filling out a survey. But to get some of your guys' input as much as you can, we want to incorporate that into the Climate Adaptation Planning Guide and make sure that your voices are heard and part of that process. So additional contact information specific to the APG, you can either reach out to us directly at the APG at caloes.ca.gov or reach out directly to our project coordinator, Annika Brocker, who's also here in our in-house. We also have resources on the guide on our website, as well as access to the climate adaptation strategy, which I highly recommend checking out if you haven't done so already, just to kind of get some understanding of where we're starting from and kind of other components that we're incorporating into the guide. All right, transferring over to the 2023 State Hazard Mitigation Plan, or what we colloquially recall the SHMP, which is a fun way to just, I like hit or miss. I don't know, honestly, sometimes I'm like, the 2023 SHMP is California's federal, sorry y'all, California's federally approved hazard mitigation framework, and it's also a valuable resource for tribes seeking to align projects with federal or state funding opportunities. It includes detailed hazard assessments on various hazard risks, whether it's flood, wildfire, drought, seismic risks, and more. Provides links to state and federal data sets that you can use in your own planning efforts, such as access to Cal EnviroScreen, Healthy Places Index, CalAdapt, and hopefully the vulnerability tool as well, once it's available, to be incorporated into the next iteration of the SHMP. Methods to use the SHMP, I want to highlight here also Chapter 43, which is access to various local resources to provide access to supporting hazard information, as well as guidance and tools from other agencies and other resources that are all consolidated within the state hazard mitigation plan, so you guys can access everything in one place. There's a lot of resources out there. Part of what we want to do is just make things a lot more accessible and trying to provide things all in one place, so you can just go to one place and get information to incorporate into your local hazard mitigation plans. One of the tools that I want to highlight as well is My Plan 2.0, which is available through the State Mitigation Planning webpage. This, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, provides a better understanding of communities' natural hazards. So it's a pretty user-friendly tool. It's connected to our GIS platform. It looks at SHMP hazard risks by your locality. It is a snapshot in time from when the risk analysis was performed. It will be updated every 5 years, as similar to your local hazard mitigation plans that get updated on a 5-year term cycle. The SHMP will also be updated in 2028. But if you guys want to have visibility on a kind of like a holistic picture of what hazards your community is at risk for, this is a really good place to start. All right, opportunities to get involved with the SHMP process. If you'd like to get involved with the SHMP either during its current implementation and maintenance phase or during the 2028 SHMP update, there are several ways to do so. First, you can sign up for SHMP general information announcements, such as the release of the public review draft or the final published draft of the SHMP for any other related announcements. You can also sign up to review the 2028 SHMP prior to its public and final release. With this, you can designate specific sections that you'd like to review rather than the plan in its entirety, which I think is like a very large document. I mean, if you guys have the time to read it, it's many, many pages. Or you can select certain sections to read, to review and provide comments on. But third, you can also get involved in our hazard and working groups. So you can sign up to join the hazard and working groups. These groups inform the direction and prioritization and substantive content of the SHMP, the update and throughout the update process. The participation is open to any planning partner who wishes to be involved and contribute to the development. So the hazard groups are organized by highlighted priority hazard, and the working groups are identified by goals and objectives, climate impacts, equity, and GIS technical advisory. So if you guys want to get involved in any of those working groups, you are more than welcome to do so. We highly encourage it. We want to make sure that there's a lot of participation in these working groups. They truly help us make our updated product more useful. And I believe that might be everything that I have. So similar to what folks are mentioning earlier, your local mitigation plans are updated every 5 years. One of the things we wanted to make sure we have access to is a lot of data and information so that you guys can update your local mitigation plans or your tribal mitigation plans with data and resources that are available and free to use. We also have a pretty extensive team at CalOES within the resilience branch that can provide free resources for you. We're here to help you guys. That is all we do, is provide technical assistance on reviewing and updating local mitigation plans, developing grant proposals or applications for various grant programs for mitigation projects, and looking at opportunities to really reinforce and strengthen your communities to be prepared for disasters, as we continuously see they're going to be increasing in frequency and severity over the next few years. I will kind of caveat this, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are hearing that there will be fewer and fewer federal funding resources available in the future, so we are trying to pivot and provide additional technical resources by trying to figure out ways to help communities be prepared for that and build internal local capacity to make sure that they're prepared for that. If federal resources are not going to be available through FEMA for mitigation projects or for response and recovery resources, we want to make sure you're not at risk when those disasters do happen, and make sure you guys are trying to do what you can to mitigate those risks ahead of time. So these are all of our our branch and division contact information email inboxes. They're constantly monitored. So if you haven't, if you want to reach out to us for the SHIMP, the adaptation planning guide, local mitigation planning guidance, our technical assistance division, which is specific to grant development or application development for mitigation projects, or the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Division, which manages post-award grants, so everything that's been awarded by FEMA and kind of the management of those projects. These are our various email inboxes. I will say all tribal communities are able to, or federally recognized tribes are able to apply direct to FEMA for your local mitigation plans and your grants. So you don't have to come to CalOES for technical assistance, but we're available to you if you need additional resources or if FEMA's not taking your calls right now because they're furloughed. So if you want support, we're here to help. And I'll just pause for questions. Thanks.
Can I just emphasize one thing? Because you went past something that I think
Sorry.
everybody was like, what?
Oh,
Or
sorry.
at least me, because I'm always looking out for like, who can help write grants? So they're saying
Oh, yeah.
they can help write grants. I hope you
Yes.
heard it. That's the Technical Assistance Division. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kinds of grants you help
Yes.
apply for?
So the Technical Assistance Division has been trained to support grant development or application development for all of the hazard mitigation assistance programs. So that includes the post-disaster program, which is hazard mitigation grant program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant program, which was not canceled yet. We're suing FEMA to try and hopefully bring that funding back, but it's currently on pause and in a state of flux right now. The Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, and then the pre-disaster or congressionally allocated funding for pre-disaster mitigation. So we are looking at trying to provide additional resources for other technical assistance and grant writing for other programs outside of FEMA's mitigation programs, because we understand that those programs might go away or might change. So we're partnering with other state agencies, other federal agencies, and potentially private sector partners to figure out ways to make sure we can identify funding resources to meet the needs of your projects. We have a huge inventory of potential projects that have been written or drafted. We want to continue to draft those potential projects in case funding becomes available, so that we can get those projects through the queues and funded by those funding entities and get the projects started. Because ultimately our goal is to make our communities safer and make them more resilient, hopefully withstand future catastrophic events. But yes, the Technical Assistance Division was newly established in 2024. We're fully staffed now, which is fantastic. We've got about 26 staff or so, including like environmental planners. We've got some archaeologists. We've got folks that are like highly skilled and highly technical that can help navigate environmental processes, regulatory processes, grant development processes. So we have a lot of really highly skilled folks that are eager and willing to support y'all.
It's so cool that they are taking a pipeline of projects and repurposing them. Did you hear that? Because when you don't get the grant, doesn't it make you want to jump off things? But they're trying to figure out where it could go.
Yeah.
So let's take a question.
I was just thinking it would be worth us together sort of mentioning something about multi-jurisdiction plans for tribes and kind of advantages and disadvantages, because that comes up a lot. And I don't know, I'll let you piggyback on what I say. But I think that, so tribes have the option. Sometimes a local community might say, you could be part of our hazard mitigation plan. And there are advantages to doing that. You don't have to seek funding to have a plan written. And then you are eligible for this pre-disaster mitigation funding that we keep talking about. But, and I personally think there's a very big but in doing a multi-jurisdiction plan like that, you really get short shrift. Like, you're not included the way you want to be. So when you do a hazard mitigation plan, a full risk assessment is done. That's why, like, the state plan is thousands of pages long. When a tribe is typically part of a multi-jurisdiction plan, you might have 2 pages of that plan. one that says you're there, and the other one that says you agree with all these mitigation actions or these projects that the community is coming up with, like, you don't get a lot of attention. So if you get that opportunity to be involved and take it, push to be really involved would be my advice, because they're not going to come looking at your community and your infrastructure necessarily the way you want, but it would be probably free to you, which is why it's attractive. But you just want to pay attention to that.
I'll piggyback on that real quick. Just so from my perspective, the value of local mitigation plans is not the product. Like it's not the delivery of this asset that gives you access to funding. That is a benefit of the product, but the true benefit of the local mitigation process is the process itself. It's the bringing the community together. It's assessing the risks and vulnerabilities related to your hazards. It's identifying potential mitigation actions that can address those risks, and then really trying to come together as a community to really educate and socialize what those risks and hazards are and what you're trying to do to prevent or acknowledge or reduce those risks. And I think that's a piece, like, it really is like the members that come to the table in the development of that plan have the loudest voices. And so in some cases, those multi-jurisdiction plans are really challenging, because if you're not there at the table, if you don't have representation, even if the group doesn't think that all of those hazards are the top priority and want to focus on only 2 out of the 3, then those are the ones that get focused on. So that's where, like, I really want to highlight too, like, the value of the state mitigation plan is it's solely science-based, solely risk-based, and it's objective. It's not like based on any specific lens. It's focused solely on, this is what the science is saying that the hazards and risks are. We want to make sure we can take those resources and that data to be able to inform local mitigation plans and hopefully coach folks through the development of those plans. But it can be challenging. There's, I think, a plus and minus to both, because it does take a regional approach, and you get to see kind of the risks at a regional scale, which is, I think, helpful sometimes, because I think it was mentioned earlier, disasters don't really acknowledge or respect regional boundaries. Climate hazards the same way. So I think looking at things at a regional level is helpful sometimes, but it does mean that that coordination element is super critical.